All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Ray Carr Show right here on April 30th and Wednesday, 12:01 in the afternoon in the Eastern Time Zone. And we are blessed to have on the line one of the great musicians, singer-songwriters of all time, Mr. Steve Forbert. Steve, welcome to the Ray Carr Show.
Ray, how are you today?
Steve, I am fantastic, and I sincerely appreciate your time and your career. Well, you know, it's an amazing career. And Steve, tell me a little bit about what it was like to come from Meridian, Mississippi to New York City. You know, when you first hit the Big Apple.
Well, I took a train from Meridian through Atlanta into Manhattan in June of 1976. And my thought was not to slow down, but to find somewhere to stay, of course. And that turned out to be the McBurney branch of the YMCA. And I just started going to the folk clubs immediately. I didn't want to think about it and, you know, delay or have any second thoughts. I'd come a long way to try to get started playing music and songwriting for my life.
Steve, you know, when you were doing that, what was your vision of your career at that time and where you wanted to go from there?
Well, my vision was simply to make records and to do the regular thing, which was, Ray, at that time you could really there were a few folk labels, but what I was shooting for was a major record label deal, and that's just what I had in mind, whatever that turned out to be. You know, making records for as long as I could and writing my own songs.
Well, your first album, Alive on Arrival, and that was 1978, when, you know, great song, and I just played a few minutes ago, Big City Cat, featuring David Sanborn. Wonderful song, and tell me a little bit about the making of that album.
Well, that record, I still like it quite a bit. It was just the right group of people for the right project at the right time. I will pause here for a moment and say this is all in my book. I think you're aware of that book. It's called, in fact, Big City Cat. People can get it on my website if they're at all interested.
Yes, they are.
If they're looking for a copy of Big City Cat. But that record was made totally live on the floor at A&R Studio in Manhattan, and it was just great players. Steve Berg was the producer, and Glenn Berger was the engineer, and we just had the right people at the right time.
Yeah, and it really is, you know, Down to Laurel was another song that I really thoroughly enjoyed off that, and, you know, it was just, you're right, a very good album. And, you know, the next album, Jackrabbit Slim, and I just have to ask you, Steve, where did you come up with the name Jackrabbit Slim?
You know, I think it's really kind of a takeoff on, to be honest, like something like Mudslide Slim, James Taylor. I had a long time to think about these album titles, and that is just one thing that had just come to my mind at Jackrabbit Slim. People ask me, well, how did Tarantino use that in his movie?
Pulp Fiction, yeah.
Pulp Fiction. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't have any. I don't know why he did that, but everybody knows I thought of it first.
No, you did, Steve. It was just it's a great title, and Romeo's tune, without saying, you know, great top 20 hit in America, top 10 hit in Canada, and it featured Bobby Ogden on piano, former Elvis pianist. Talk a little bit about how you got Bobby on the record.
Well, what happened was Bobby was one of the people you would call. I was going to make this second record in Nashville, and the producer arranged for a cast of characters in advance. When I got there, I didn't really like all of the characters, Ray. They were the best players in Nashville, but honestly, they were kind of a little. At that point, they had done so many sessions, 3 a day for so long, that they were kind of, to me, like a little less than inspired. And I just mentioned to John Simon that I just said, these guys may be the best, but I don't think they're the right guys. And so Bobby was one of the ones that was called for that best A team, and I wanted I wanted him to stay. He had some real sympathy for the material,
Yeah.
and I became friends with Bobby, and of course I showed him the riff to Romeo's tune, and he voiced it, put it in the way a player as good as Bobby Ogden would play it, and that's what you hear on the hit single. Bobby Ogden is his name, and yes, he was on the road with Elvis in the final year.
Yeah, it was a great song. And in your book, you noted that you were hesitant to do a video working around Romeo's tune. What was the thinking behind that?
Well, I wasn't hesitant to do a video, but videos weren't as well accepted and as part of the essential. In 1979, videos weren't what Michael Jackson really turned them into, which was such a big production.
Sure.
And such an essential part of promotion, which they did become in the next few years. So I didn't mind doing a video, but I didn't really want to lip sync. I wanted to be all natural, and I just thought at the time lip syncing was a kind of a phony thing to do. I can sing, my band can play, just film us singing and playing. So that's what you would see if you were to see that video. We did, and we were able to do 3 videos in one afternoon. 3 songs, and we just played them and filmed them. But honestly, what the record company really wants, and I don't blame them looking back on it, Ray, is that they want to promote the as it were, the product that they have. So they want people to see the visuals, but they want them to hear the record. So even I gave into that, within the next couple of years, I was lip syncing myself. That's the story.
Yeah, that's the way the industry was at that time. And are there any other songs other than Romeo's Tune that you think in your mind should have been bigger hits? Well,
Say Goodbye to Little Joe got some good response. That might be one.
Yeah, that was a good song as well. You had so many albums out, and, I was just going over. There's more. I haven't listened to every one of them, but there are some really good ones. Streets of This Town, it was on Geffen back in 1988. Any old time songs of Jimmy Rogers. I just played something off that. So, I mean, that's just to name a few. And you have done so much in the business. So as time has gone on, Steve, what have you used for inspiration? Is this something you felt in your mind that you wanted to do a long time ago and just had the time to do at that time? Or what was your thinking behind all that?
Well, you said the word is inspiration. If you follow me up to the latest record, which is called the Daylight Savings Time, came out in September or so of last year. So there are songs throughout. I've done songs about what's a dog think, which is literally just a 3-minute musing on what goes through a dog's mind, and how we love dogs.
Yes,
I'm a dog lover. I've done things about good planets are hard to find. I've got a song on the latest album just about the inspiration of seeing a brand new purple Toyota and how unusual anymore it is to see a bright colored, really loud car. Yeah. That's really a happy looking thing. As the song says, these days cars, automakers go for cars that look like rainy weather. That's what's somehow become all around us, is these kind of dull colors. So these are some of the inspirations that I'm, pulling from as time goes by.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about a purple car. I never thought about that, but you're absolutely right. Some other songs that I was just curious about is Lonely Girl, 1980, Schoolgirl, and Thinkin'. So maybe you could just talk a little bit about those singles that were released.
Well, as it says in the book, I remember writing Thinkin' one afternoon. I had a little apartment on what was West East 4th Street in the Village. I remember finishing the song thinking and feeling pretty good about it. It was a nice day, and I just went out for a walk, which is a very, very low-key celebration. I'll go for a walk. I think I've written a good song. I like this one. So that's the story on Thinking. That's what it is. It's just a song about someone who might be just overthinking things, which could have something to do with me, Ray.
Well, I think we're all in that boat. Yeah.
It seems people are. Let's see. What else did you mention? You mentioned.
I was mentioning Lonely Girl and Schoolgirl, both in 1980.
Right, Lonely Girl Schoolgirl is obviously something that's not real relevant to me of late in life, but at the time, running all over the place and playing a lot of colleges, Schoolgirl was something that, became a song I would write, and it was very fun to write. It went very quickly. And I'm proud of that recording of it, too. We got a really happening record of Schoolgirl, and I think it's true to say that it was a hit in Israel, of all places.
Wow.
And Lonely Girl is something you would see if you were in Kenny's Castaways, say, observing a typical evening at the folk club on Bleecker Street called Kenny's Castaways. And you might just be, noticing a waitress working away, and not looking very happy. And so these are true to life songs, and those are a good three you picked there.
Yeah, good ones, and not to be confused with the Lonely Girl by Eddie Holman. Of course, that was that was a classic back in the 70s.
Oh
Yeah. Now those.
I think you mean "Hey There, Lonely Girl."
Hey There,
Yeah,
that was a good one. Steve, the song "When You Walk in the Room" that also intrigued me. I remember that just kind of resonated with me for some reason.
Well, Jackie DeShannon wrote that song.
Yes, indeed, and the Searchers covered it too. Yeah.
Yes, of course you would know those facts. But I liked the song, and I wanted to record it, and took a shot at it. The funny thing is that Carl Labanoff was thinking the very same thing.
Yeah.
And around that time, she released it as well. And what's funny is, as the decades went by, maybe about 10 years ago, I can't remember, but I did several shows with Carla, and it just worked out that we both had that song in common. So at the end of the show, we could get together and sing that for the audience together, and that turned out to be a nice coincidence in the long run.
Yeah, it's a great song, and I always loved the song, and it just never got enough airplay as far as I'm concerned. It just had a great riff and a great feel to it, and sometimes, songs are timeless, and you did a beautiful cover of it, and it just, it's nice that the song is being kept alive like that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you like it, of course. And funny thing about that song is it stands out as having used the word nonchalant. But, I close my eyes, pretend it's me you want, and meanwhile I try to act so nonchalant. That was creative.
Oh, it was. And in the video, you're wearing a nice red shirt. I always enjoyed that. I mean, it's just, you were kind of a fashion statement back in the day.
Well, I don't know. That video was done on a bus we rented for the day, and that was my band at the time. And those were some good times. I can't say that it was a great move to rent a chimpanzee for that video, Ray, and take the chimp up to Woodstock from Manhattan for the day.
Yeah.
That turned out to be a little more of more than we bargained for.
I mean, chimpanzees are very mercurial, and you never know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, so you can see him for a second. He made the cut. He made the cut, but not for he didn't get a lot of screen time.
No, he didn't, but it was very interesting. Out of all the venues that you've played, I mean, this is an open-ended question, but which venues back in the day, 1978 to 1981, really, when you got on stage, you just felt like you were home? And same with today. I mean, are there venues out there right now that you just walk out there and there's just a different vibe out there? You just go, man, I just really feel comfortable here.
Well, one does come to mind, although it's not from way back in the day. I love playing anyway, so it's always fun, and that's one thing that's kept me going. I don't have to play for big crowds and all, and I don't feel like I'm not making the grade if I'm not doing large shows, because I like to play, period. And if it's a folk club or a small club or 300 seater or a 150 or bigger, and they're all fun. But having said that, and what used to be the City Winery in downtown Manhattan, that was a good place. There was something about that place. It was way down near the Wall Street area.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually very near the Holland Tunnel, Ray, and it had a staircase that went down the middle of the room to the basement, and there were some poles that were supporting the room, and there was a lot of noise from over at the bar there, and you would do sound check and kind of think it was going to be a little bit of work. But every time I played there, which was many times, as soon as you started playing at the downtown, the original City Winery in Manhattan, the room just kind of played itself. I don't know. The audience was always good. That helps. But the room was just, it was deceptively supportive. Sound check was one thing. The show was much easier.
And I'm sure the acoustics were good, too.
They turned out to be good once you started playing.
Yeah.
There were glass windows against the back wall, and you could see people heading down all during the show, heading south, traffic like crazy going to the Holland Tunnel. But once people got in there, the sound wouldn't be bouncing off that glass so badly.
Right. It just had a more, rich feel to it sometimes when there's more bodies in there to absorb it. Steve, when you were a little boy and you listened to the radio, who were some of the rock and roll stars or singing stars that you really looked up to?
Well, I've said this many times. Of course, like everybody else that you would be interviewing in my subgeneration or generation, the Beatles, of course, they rocked the world. But what really made the difference for me was Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds, which I guess, as we all know, that we all, of course, know that Bob Dylan wrote it, and that Bob Dylan was a folk, whatever Bob is, force of nature. But anyway, there's something about, I guess, the intrinsic folk element of that song being written by Bob Dylan and coming out of Greenwich Village, and the Byrds, the way they adapted it. And Roger McGuinn had a Greenwich Village history already himself, as you know. So that's my answer to your question. That just really did the deal for me, and I had to become a part of this racket.
Was there any obscure song that you listened to that you really liked that nobody's really aware of that you used to listen to?
Well, I've got a recording that someday I'll release of a song by a singer-songwriter whose name is David Ackles, and he put out a record called American Gothic that had a song on it called Waiting for the Moving Van that I really liked. It was kind of like a Raymond Carver short story. If you know the work of Raymond Carver, he's excellent. Very American. Even though David Ackles was English, this song is one that I would say in answer to your question. I could name many, many songs. The entire John Cale Paris 1919 record is something anybody with a serious interest in pop rock and roll music should check out. John Cale's Paris 1919, which came out, I think, in 1972 for Warner Brothers.
We'll definitely check that out. But your latest, I really, really enjoy it. Daylight Savings Time. Tell me more about how this album all came to be.
Well, those are the inspirations that I've been feeling the last couple of years. And it turns out that I've had a lot of appreciation for nature these last few years, and more so than normal. Of course, years ago I wrote Good Planets Are Hard to Find. But that found its way into this record. There are lines like birds land in a tree so symmetrically. Nature's got it down So the World Spins Round. And there's a song simply about the one lone leaf. You may remember the song, The Last Leaf Clings to the Bough. Who did that? The Cascades?
I believe they did. I offhand, I have the 45 at home, and I just haven't played that song in a long time, but I believe that is it.
Yeah, it's a real good record. It's a flip side of Rhythm of the Rain, I think. But this was just I was out you would just have like a leaf. I was out walking in the woods, and a leaf came down, and it was like, that could be the first leaf of fall, and maybe the summer's coming to an end. And those are some of the sort of things that are on the record. There's a song on there called Sound Existence about an older person who has been fortunate enough to have a comfortable retirement in some sort of a suburban subdivision. It's not me in this case, but it was just an observation. So there are things that mention later time after, we'll say after middle age in life, and there are a lot of references to the beauty of nature on daylight savings time.
Right. Now, some people don't like daylight savings time, but I mean, I know that you do like it.
How could you not like it? I don't get it.
Well, there are some people...
the only way, they get up really early or something. I could see that with... What, you have a theory?
No, I'm just saying that I'm not disagreeing with you, but I would... I kind of like it myself. You fall back and you spring ahead, and it's, you get an extra hour of sleep in the wintertime, so I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I'm not having a great time when I'm sleeping, but I am having a great time when I'm able to stay out late in the daytime with my dogs and play ball and things they like to do. So I love the extra hour of daylight.
Yeah, that does make a big difference. Now, you seem to have more of appreciation for the simpler things in life. I think we all tend to get to that point as we move along in our careers. What are some of the other things that you've really enjoyed more as you become a more seasoned artist?
Well, I just like, I know this sounds like a pat answer, but it's true. I like I just did Pittsburgh and Columbus and Indianapolis and Chicago. And I'm going around playing for people who have primarily been with me for decades now, Ray. So as I get older, it means more because it's been going on a long time, and these are people that still want to be there to hear when I come to town and hear the show and take the trouble to be there. So that means more than ever.
And you have some tour dates here that it looks like you're going to be coming May 3rd to Parker Press Park in Woodbridge Township, New Jersey. And I don't see any in Cleveland, but hopefully in the future, Steve, you'll be able to maybe stop by our neck of the woods.
Oh, yeah. My next stop, my next swing through the Midwest, I really would think I'd hit Cleveland again. I usually do.
When you were in Cleveland, Steve, where were some of your favorite places to play in this town?
Well, I always wind up at the Beachland Ballroom, and I often play the tavern there. I'm very comfortable with that, and that goes really well. So there used to be a club down by the river, if I'm not mistaken. But the Beachland Ballroom would be the answer.
Yeah, I go there a lot. It's a wonderful place, and Cleveland's blessed to have such a great venue for many artists to come in and really, show their talents. And people in the tavern just thoroughly love it. In the ballroom too, but it's a great place to play. Steve, one final question: on the horizon, we always don't know what's going to be in the future for any of us. But what do you plan in the future for yourself? Maybe the next album, or perhaps a movie, or anything else like that?
Well, I'm really most thinking about the next song. I've written quite a few songs at this point and made quite a few albums of those songs, but it's still about that next song. And songwriting is a lot easier when you're in your 20s and you don't have the responsibilities you develop later in life, and you've just got a lot more energy when you're young, and life itself is new, is more often new and exciting. So, Ray, the challenge as you get older is to just continue to write songs that you're happy with.
Well said, Steve. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Girls Just Want to Have Fun, the video with Cyndi Lauper. And, of course, Cyndi Lauper will be going into the Rock Hall. But you were in that video with a tuxedo and a bouquet of flowers. Maybe just explain how all that came about.
Okay, I'm just reviewing my thoughts here. I think I used to play the Agora in Cleveland. Would that be right?
Yeah. The Agora used to be on East 24th, and it burned down in 1984 and then moved over to 55th, where it is right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one place that used to be happening.
Yes, it.
So about this Girls Just Want to Have Fun, I was a fan of Cyndi Lauper. She was in a group, was called Blue Angel. Mm-hmm. I used to go and see them play, and I thought she was, a powerhouse, and that voice, and to my mind, she was kind of like a new version, if you will, of Brenda Lee, and she kind of had this 50s thing going for a while with Blue Angel. Anyway, I was a fan, and she knew that I liked her voice and what she was doing with it, singing. And when she went out on her own, she asked me to be in her video. I said, yes, of course, and it was lucky. All I had to do was walk down to the end of my block in Manhattan, which was then on 5th Street, and it was a rainy Sunday, and that's when we filmed that video. I had to wait around till all those other people got through doing all those other shenanigans, and then we staged the imitation party in her bedroom thing. So it was fun, and it was very convenient, and I thought it was all kind of silly, and of course it was silly, but it was also going to be one of the biggest, most popular videos there's ever been released. So I had no idea.
No, it was, and you mentioned Blue Angel. That was back in 1979-80. They had a song. I don't know if people remember it, called "Maybe He'll Know," and that was a song that they put out. And also, you mentioned Brenda Lee. I also thought there's a little bit of Wanda Jackson influence in her voice, too. Cindy's.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, great stuff. Steve, now, where would you like people to go, once again, to get your material, your book, etc.?
Well, SteveForbert.com is good. And, of course, for up-to-date information, which is often something new every day or every other day, would be the Facebook page, just like you'd expect.
Yeah. And if there's any changes when you come to Cleveland, or when you announce that you're going to come to Cleveland, please let me know. We'll have you on again and come out there and promote the show. And really appreciate your time, Steve. Keep up the great work and a great career.
Well, thank you, Ray. I appreciate it. Nice talking to you. And yes, I'll let you know on the next visit to Cleveland.
Okay. Have a wonderful day and be safe.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Steve Forbert, ladies and gentlemen.